Okay, Lee, you're all set.
Good evening. We're opening the public meeting for the zoning board. The beginning of this meeting is a discussion on the chairmanship, which I am stepping down, and the board is going to discuss a new chairman. Andrew Dennington has been voted as co-chairman a month and a half ago. I discussed with him about being a chairman. Karen, he sent a letter to me. I'd like to put in the public record.
August 4th, 2016, to Leo F. Bartolini, Jr., Chairman. Dear Mr. Bartolini, this is to confirm that you asked me if I would accept an appointment as ZBA Chairman. I indicated to you that yes, I would accept an appointment as Chairman if the board nominated for that position. I am sending you this letter because I am unable to attend currently scheduled Monday, August 8th, 2016 meeting to discuss reorganization of the board. This is due to a previously scheduled family vacation. Sincerely yours, Andrew Dennington.
Okay, so the issue is Andrew can't be here, and Jeff Walker's not here also. So the thing is that we're not going to have a regular zoning board meeting until September, maybe October, but there's nothing gonna happen in August. So the thing is that we just take and continue, it's Jeff. Jeff is sitting as the alternate. So the thing is that we just continue it until our next public meeting for the regular zoning board. And then they make a vote and do it, and if everybody agrees to make Andrew the chairman, that we do it that way, and then Andrew will, I'm gonna tell him that meeting, that make a recommendation, that he make a recommendation of a co-chairman. And because he's not here this night, we'll let it all go and do it at that meeting if that's the way the board agrees to go forward with it. Because there's nothing on the agenda going on in between, so we don't need anybody involved
Right.
on anything.
That's fine then.
Makes sense.
All right, so what we do is make a motion that at the next public meeting of the zoning board, full zoning board, that the discussion of approval of a new chairman and co-chairman will be done at the beginning of that agenda.
Okay.
So we have a motion for that?
And that'll run for the entire year, that
Yes, definitely.
chairmanship.
Oh, yeah, no, for the whole year.
Okay, so the motion would be to, what, continue this discussion? No?
That the discussion will be, I'm gonna make the motion, make it
Okay.
easier. The next meeting will have the main agenda will be the discussion of the appointment of the chairman of Andrew Dennington and the appointment of a co-chairman of the zoning board. And that'll be done at our next meeting, which we don't know when that will be yet,
Okay,
all right?
I will second that then.
Okay, any further discussion with the board members on the way we're gonna do that?
Nope, I think we're fine.
Okay. Any other discussion before we do that with Mr. Rooney, or as the selectman chairman, or where we're at with this, or Mr. Cipriano of the process that we're going at?
Mr. Chairman, that would be appropriate for the full board to consider a permanent chairman.
Yes.
You still have the issue with the three-member board under the Chapter 40B application to select a successor chairman pro tem.
That will be done after this.
But
Today.
that's,
This is
Tonight.
separate,
Right,
they
yeah.
have to be done separate,
right.
Thank you, and that is correct.
yes. All right, so we have a second, and no further discussions. And Mr. Nickerson, I'd like to introduce you to the public, that you're our new full-time member that was just appointed by the Board of Selectmen a week ago, and he's sitting here full-time now also. So, we all in favor of the motion?
Well, who seconded that?
I did.
Paul. Okay. So I need a motion, we're going to close the general public meeting, the zoning board.
I'll make a motion to close the general ZBA meeting for this topic of the chairmanship.
Second?
On the topic of chairmanship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, okay. The next thing is that we're going to open up a public meeting for the zoning board to do with the ZBA project, which are 3 members, which is myself, Dave Eagle, and Paul, of that meeting.
Paul Buchanan.
Sal Capano, of the meeting. So the thing is, I am going to step down from that chairmanship also, which we had somewhat of a discussion a week ago. So if you, one of you would agree to be the chairmanship on that as we go forward.
As we've discussed, I mean, I would prefer that you stayed as chairman, but if, you know, if that's your decision that you want to step down at that I would nominate Dave to take over as
Pro tem
pro tem chairman of the
Of
for the
the-
meeting,
of the Park
central
Central
meeting,
hearing.
hearing.
Okay, then I will second that motion. All right, that's gonna be the motion, that we're making Dave Eagles
Yep.
chairman of Park Central,
Yes.
okay? I'm gonna second it. Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye, okay. We don't start the public hearing for Park Central until 7:30. So we
Okay.
have 20 minutes before we can do anything on it. So I guess we have to take and call a 20-minute recess.
Do we have any other
Oh, one
housekeeping
other
to do?
thing, yes, Karen, we have an agenda for the 25th to approve, and that was Park Central's meeting.
So we have the 17th, you had mentioned on August 3rd.
No, no, no.
17th.
The
and
approval-
24th. Oh, the
We have one set of minutes to approve, don't we?
Oh, June 29th, yeah.
Yeah, which meeting was it?
It was June 29th, and it did have, I believe it had Park Central, and it had some other topics.
No, do you have a
So,
copy of the minutes?
So would we need everyone to discuss?
Send them by email.
If it had other topics, would we need,
Other-
we
yeah.
would need
Yeah,
we
we'd
would
need the rest of
full-
the board.
The rest of the board then to approve it.
Yep.
I sent the draft to you guys by email,
Right,
but I just didn't think you would vote on it tonight because nobody's here.
So we'll, I guess have
There's
to,
other
Has to
matters
wait.
that were discussed.
right,
have
so
to
we'll do
wait.
that after.
All right, so you want to go for a 20-minute recess?
Yeah, also, before we do that, you people, you have
Yep.
this
Yes.
document.
yep, it's
And
draft.
then- David, any discussion that you want to have before we go into that as far as being acting chairman on this, or?
Nope, no, I'd just like to see if we could get as much input and move this process along as best we can.
And it doesn't matter, it's the issue of moving it on and be done with it shortly, so there's not much more to go.
Well, there is a deadline, correct?
Yeah, we
There's
will have a
time constraint.
discussion on that when we open up the
Okay.
meeting at 7:30.
Okay.
All right? So we have a motion for a 10-minute recess.
10-minute?
20
Yeah,
minute?
I mean, 20 minutes.
20-minute, all right, I'll make a motion for a 20-minute recess to,
All in favor?
Well, I'll second that.
Second it? All in favor? Aye.
okay. Want to reopen the Park Central hearing. My name is David Eagle. I'm the pro tem chairman until the end of this particular hearing. So I want to see if the applicant would like to proceed with tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Yeah, we are here tonight, as everyone knows, for probably the 15th or 20th public hearing on this matter. We feel that we're getting close to our final presentation. Tonight, we would like to present to the board the changes, our engineer Mike Scott from Waterman Design, those changes that have been made to the site plan or that are in the progress of being made to the site plan, just to give the board and the public a heads up of what they are. It's our goal to have the final site plans completed either tomorrow or Wednesday of this week, and then filed with the board and with the appropriate other agencies. We're also going to discuss, Mike will also discuss with the board and the public, the progress that we've made with the Conservation Commission and where we are with the Conservation Commission in terms of a possible order of conditions. And then we would think that it would be appropriate to open the public discussion for conditions that may be appropriate in the comprehensive permit. As the board is aware, we have submitted a draft decision, which I have included, I think, were some appropriate conditions, but obviously it's the purview of the board, okay, as to exactly what conditions the board wants to impose in any comprehensive permit that it will issue. What we're not prepared to talk about tonight, or do I feel, and does my client feel, we need any further discussion on, except as to conditions, okay, is traffic. We did not bring our traffic engineer with us tonight. We thought that the traffic discussion was over, and other than addressing possible conditions relating to traffic, we have nothing else to add on traffic. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mike Scott, and he can go over the changes to the plan and our progress with the Conservation Commission.
Excuse me, before we start, in talking to Foster O'Neill today, if you get this drawing to them by Wednesday or Thursday morning, the earliest, they will have it reviewed and should be able to come in front of us on Wednesday the 17th and discuss it, if it gets to them in time. Daniel's going to, as soon as he gets it, will get back to us and let us know whether he's going to be able to do it at that meeting or not, but he feels if he gets it by no later than Thursday morning, he will be able to do it, because he said it's a minor change from what he's reviewed in the past 6 months.
Well, our full intention is to hopefully get it to them by Wednesday, so that we should have no problem with
Okay.
next week.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Michael Scott, Waterman Design Associates. As Attorney Kent already said, I'm just going to give you a brief presentation, or quick overview.
Oh,
You need a mic.
microphone.
Mike Scott, Waterman Design Associates. As Attorney Catanzaro indicated, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the plan changes that have been made in the past few weeks, really as a function of discussions with the Conservation Commission and some of the just site-specific things that the Planning Board also was looking to see on the plan. Primarily what's occurred is the roadway network, except for the main spine road up to the back, the roads have been narrowed, so their widths are now 18 feet. This was run past the fire department and found acceptable. It was a way to minimize the amount of pavement, resulted in some one-way roads instead of two-way traffic patterns within the site. Additionally, we were able to relocate units and eliminate actually 3 units in this area and one of the roadways to eliminate a wetland crossing. So again, most of the changes that were made to the site plan are a function of commentary and discussion that occurred at either the last Conservation Commission meeting or prior meetings. So right now, with the loss of those 3 units and the relocation of some units that were up in the Blackthorn area to a more central portion of the site, the unit count's at 139, down from 142. And then additionally, we've revised some of the drainage. Some of the BMPs that were selected have been rethought. So in other words, water quality type structures and features have been revised per some of the conversations and commentary from Fuss and O'Neill. And then lastly, sort of bigger picture, there's been an active recreational component added at the northern end of the site, and there have been some pocket parks and other small recreational, more passive recreational areas added to the plans. But in terms of the overall layout, in terms of the number of units, in terms of the roadway geometry, in terms of the site egress and to and from the public ways, in terms of pedestrian circulation, there's really been no material change to the plan in that respect. Again, it's a lot of detail and it's a lot of things related to technical aspects of either a stormwater or a planning board request for some additional parking, something like that.
So there's going to be a reduction in the amount of units, you said by 3.
Correct.
The narrowing of the road, I understand the reasoning on your part. You're reducing the footprint of the pavement. You said the fire chief was fine with it? He did?
That's correct.
And is it going to impact, let's say, school buses or?
The
how
school
will
drop-off
buses
areas
enter the
remain on
site?
the main road,
Yep.
so that doesn't affect the school drop-off. The main road has not been reduced in width. Its alignment has not changed. Its profile has not changed. I mean, one of the things that another offshoot of narrowing roads is that the extent of grading and work associated with building the road can be reduced, meaning that the impingement into wetland buffer zones or other parts of the site that that are no longer going to be altered, that would have been altered under the wider road scenario. That, that's a nice little benefit of having reduced the road width. So
The alternate road that you're reducing the width is going to be one way, isn't it?
that's correct.
So it's only going to be one way
Right.
anyways.
Mike, can you show them the 2 roads
Sure.
that we're talking
Yeah,
about so they
it's
understand?
this spur here, and then the longer road around the pond. So the main road, and then actually this road, Blackthorn, off of Blackthorn would also be reduced.
So the main spine road's going to be 2-way?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's what's the
24
width?
feet, and it hasn't changed.
Okay, that's, all right. That's
22 feet, I'm sorry, and it has not
22
changed.
feet. All right, I got it. Now, just go over a little bit on the recreation side. You glossed over a little bit. I just wanted to get some ideas what the applicant was thinking as to
I
what he
believe
may
the
do.
planning board and Mr. DePietri can probably
yeah, the
elaborate, but
planning
the
board-
planning board was
I
looking
don't
for
know if
some
the planning
active.
board had any suggestions on what they were gonna,
Well, I can go through a little detail. So they were looking for a soccer field, baseball area, which is up in the northern part of the site. There were 4 or 5 pocket parks. I think we've added a couple more, Mike. So the pocket parks are roughly 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. It's an area where there's a bench, someone can sit there. If you got little kids, they can walk around. It's a partially fenced-in area, so it's somewhat protected from these small roadways. There's one there. There's one over here. They're randomly spread out throughout the site. One of the other changes through the planning board is we added some additional guest parking, which was not on the original set of plans. I think within the site, we've added maybe another 30 or 40 spaces, and we've also entered into an agreement with the owners of Park Central for some off-site parking between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. 7 days a week. So if someone's having a party at night or on a weekend, they can use this parking lot here, and they can walk up along the sidewalks.
on the soccer field, do you have areas for parking up there? Or how would people access
Well,
that?
it's mainly for the
Just for
people within the
people walking
project.
to it, right?
Exactly, and there's sidewalks all leading to it. I mean, there is parking up in the apartments here.
Right, I understand, but it's not like, I guess my fear is that there'd be a huge parking lot and there'd be extra traffic beyond the
No.
the homeowners.
I mean, it's not town-wide, it's basically project specific. We can add some parking, maybe on some gravel areas here, so we're not increasing impervious area here.
Okay.
Is the soccer field going to be a private field for the project?
Correct.
It's not going to be open to the full town then?
Nope.
No. All right. And the parking all stays,
Yeah.
within it, so.
And it's mainly for not so much soccer games, but playing. They can play baseball, they can play catch. It was,
Anything they want on it.
exactly.
How far away is that from like the treatment facility? Is that quite a distance away?
I don't know, Mike.
It's uphill. It's actually on top of the leaching area. That's one of the it's a large flat area on the site as a result of the wastewater leaching facility. So it's a couple hundred feet from the treatment area.
It's on top of the leaching area.
On top of the
isn't it?
leaching area, right, because it has to be 2% or so, so it's
I
a flat
understand.
area.
Okay. Because I
Pretty-
assume that the waste area is going to be fenced around.
Not the leaching facility, not the ground area, but the building will be,
Building,
and the
yeah.
treatment plant internal, yeah,
Yes.
that'll all be closed off.
If you look at the drawing, the leaching field is natural. So it's not a leaching field that was filled in and raised way up, just a little bit is. So it's just mostly natural ground anyways.
Got it. Anyone have any other questions? Paul?
And is there any issues with the soccer field down at that end by any of the abutters on the end of Black Lawn there? On
The-
that end?
This, the last house on Blackthorn is here, this is a 100 scale drawing, so it's on the order of 400 to 500 feet away.
Right, I understand, but are there no issues with none of that?
We've not heard any issues.
Okay.
A lot of the people
No.
at the planning board,
Very
I'm not
good.
saying everyone was, but we've not heard anything.
All right, I have no further questions right now.
Okay. The landscaping, is staying the same, I assume? It's
Again, minor tweaks based on the few areas here or there, which will be on the plans that we're gonna submit to the town Wednesday, Thursday morning, but minor.
See, what'll happen is when we receive the plan from Foster O'Neill, that'll be something that'll be in the discussions. And if the board wants, if we want, we can send a letter to them immediately in indicating those major issues that we might wanna have them, indicate to us, which they'll do basically all of it for us anyways. And they're gonna come in front of us to do it, so the things can be asked them at that meeting to be done.
Okay, does anyone from any town committee or board would like to ask any questions with respect to this tweak of the plan? No. Okay, everyone's got it.
I do have one question, I'm sorry. Did you say that there was?
Wait, excuse me. If you have a question, you have to stand up, you have to grab a mic, you have to introduce yourself. And do you represent a board?
No.
Okay, why don't you hold off?
Okay.
Because there'll be plenty of time for people to, individual citizens to get up and ask specific questions as the evening goes on. We're not gonna move on until everyone has a chance to speak and ask questions. We just want to make sure that any of the boards or any of the, yes.
Actually,
sure.
I do have one question that I was asking earlier that I just remembered. It was at our last full meeting that we had, not the 2 o'clock one the other day. There was some talk about the road, how it changed some, I guess onto the Route 9, I guess either access or egress. And I know it was brought up maybe at one of the planning board meetings, but I don't think it was really brought up to us much, or at this board. So is that something that could be explained a little bit?
Where?
Onto the Route 9.
You're talking about the existing Park Central.
Right, so that's
Correct.
now
Yes,
incorporated?
if you see on the plan here where the trees are,
Uh-huh.
there's still two-way access, so meaning ingress and egress on the lower portion, which would allow the hotel site to exit out on Route 9. The office site would be obligated to exit out this direction to reduce the amount of traffic out to 9, which was a primary concern of the DOT. So there's still full ingress to all the properties, the existing properties that are served as well as the future development. But again, as DOT is striving to reduce the amount of traffic that exits onto Route 9 close to the ramp for 495, it was agreeable to both the owners as well as DOT to send those folks out only. They can still access from 9 in the morning or whenever, but they need to leave in the other direction.
But you can now enter the site, the whole site through that.
Through Park Central. And that's always been the case. But the ability for this will be one way, one lane, so it's not physically impossible to drive out, but it will be signed and there will be a single lane on the wrong side of the road, if you will. You would have to cross over the center line to drive against traffic.
Now, it was discussed earlier that you were very close to finishing your drawings, right? One of the concerns that we've had is drainage, and particularly where it dumps out onto Flag Road. Has your engineers addressed that? And kind of fill the audience in, because I know there's some concern about, you know, runoff and making sure that we retain water and making sure that it doesn't disrupt the existing culvert that's there.
Yeah, I'll let Mike go through that. He's basically 99% done with the drainage.
Yeah, as I mentioned, some of the Fuss and O'Neill commentary, as well as some of the comments, I think that came from the public during the conservation review and maybe in this meeting as well. There were concerns about runoff. This is Flag, obviously, here. DEP also had some questions about the proximity of some of the detention facilities and stormwater facilities relative to some of the wetlands. So we've reworked the stormwater system to better take advantage of the system that was built in the 80s, which is, you know, what you see on the plan, the large central portion of the site. The berms, the outlet control structures, the excavation work that was done by, I guess, Flatley, with an order of conditions from the town, and then ultimately as built. In other words, a survey was done to demonstrate that it was built in accordance with the approved design. We're just enhancing that, taking more advantage of what's there. So the rates and the volumes will meet the requirements of the DEP stormwater standards, as well as the offsets to, in particular, it's a detailed thing, but there was a request to move some of the infiltration basins farther from the wetland edge, so they've moved back 20 or 30 feet. So a lot of things that are details, but the
But
bigger.
has the basins increased in size, or are you just moving them back?
No, some of the basins the existing basins have been enlarged, or the adjacent to them will have been enlarged, yes. So there's more ability to store stormwater. And then in terms of recharge, we've sited the recharge higher up to create greater offset to groundwater, and we've moved them away from the wetland edges.
Because I know in some previous meetings, we talked about the angle, the entrance road off Flag Road, the angle up into the project. Has that changed the angle? I know we had discussions in depth as to how many degree angle it was, and have those numbers all pretty much stayed the same?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the alignment and profile of the main road really hasn't changed. This road was raised a little bit to facilitate that separation of groundwater to the stormwater system to create greater separation for recharge. So this portion of the site came up a couple feet. Otherwise, the grades have essentially stayed the same. And the reason this road was so steep, as steep as it is in order to get over the wetland crossing at this location. And that grade has not changed since November. So that's where its grade was established.
A year ago, when we did this, Foster O'Neill was told by us to be looking into that culvert and the way it was all gonna go. And I know in talking to Daniel that they have talked to you people and agreed, and the water leaving is less than what was originally leaving the site and everything. So when they come next week, we can also re-ask them, but they've stated that to us already, because they were asked to look into that specifically on that one particular item. One other thing is, Mr. Catanzaro, I'd like to give you this as well, and you just need to change the wording on it, on the signed-off letter.
Oh, yeah, well, I presume that you're gonna go through the comprehensive permit draft, and there'll be a lot of other changes I'm
All
sure
right.
the board is gonna
Okay.
want.
Yeah, all right.
And we may make other proposals as well, but the purpose of this was to get something to the board so that you'd have something to work from and not necessarily be the final product by any means. And yes, I do note that there's a new chairman, and we'll change that.
In regards to you as chairman,
It's gonna get rewritten when we're done with it anyways.
and hopefully spelled correctly, too.
So you have met with conservation. You are very close to putting stuff on paper that you've had in principle, that you've basically agreed to in principle. Is that correct? I mean, how close are you? Because that's, you know, to be honest with you, that's like a really important part of this decision, is making sure that the people over at conservation are
Happy.
happy, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's, you know, some of the issues, some of the most important issues that we have to overcome here are related to conservation. So I want to make sure that their needs are addressed?
We've had two public meetings with Conservation, latest one this past Thursday. And we've had 2 working sessions with the Conservation Committee's consultants, Fuss and O'Neill and Lucas Environmental. At the last meeting, mostly the plan changes that Mike talked about today were conservation-driven to basically pull the site, the work away from the wetlands, so it's less of an impact within the 20-foot no disturb area.
Right.
Our next meeting is August 31st. Look, I don't want to sit here and say, we hope that's the last one, but I feel if that's not, there would be one more and we would be done with conservation.
All right, so at least Conservation, I'm assuming, has identified the areas that are indeed wet, that are wetlands, and because there was a question of where
Yeah, no.
where the line,
We had an approved ANRAD back in March.
okay,
That the Conservation Commission, as well as your consultant and our consultant, agreed on the line.
okay.
Yeah,
That's-
so that was agreed way back when, and then we fixed the plans based on that agreed to wetland line.
You know, and any comprehensive permit is necessarily conditioned upon a final order of conditions from the Conservation Commission or a superseding order of conditions from the DEP. So, and typically what happens in this kind of a process is that you would condition any comprehensive permit on that. And in fact, if there was changes required by the Conservation Commission, that would also be built into your decision, that those changes would have to be made, okay? And you would retain jurisdiction to entertain those.
Right. I think the goal of this board is to be as transparent as we can.
Sure.
That's key. We have to make sure that we lay it out as what we're looking for, and obviously, Conservation is gonna have their own sets of orders of conditions, for sure, but the general public may not understand that, so when we go to vote, they may not be aware of the fact that even though we could vote, it's still subject to these other things. So I just wanted to be as open as I can
No.
during some of this stuff, because,
Right.
you know, some people in the public think that, you know, we're kind of not focusing on things maybe we should be focusing on. So I think it's important that that's out there.
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that we're on the same page as the Conservation, and if we weren't, we would not be going to final plan set.
When is your next planning board?
It is scheduled for the 15th, and we've had 2 meetings with the planning board. We feel that we've addressed all the issues that the board itself has brought up. They've yet to submit the plans to the consultant because they were waiting for the final set of plans before they submitted them. I mean, Fuss and O'Neill, it's the same company that you guys are using, that the Conservation's using, so they've seen them now for the past, 14 months. But when the final set comes out this Wednesday, the planning board will be getting them, Conservation, DPW, the fire department, everybody, all the town boards, so they can look at them.
When did you say that meeting was gonna be?
15th, I believe.
The 15th.
It's like next Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they
That's
might
next
be ready,
Monday.
they might be close to that, because they say they're gonna be ready the 17th, so they'll be close to the, what do you call the 15th?
Yes, it's next Monday.
And so you think you could wrap some of their concerns up on that Monday meeting?
Well, we had 2 meetings and we didn't, we scheduled another meeting, but there's really nothing to talk about. They're waiting for Fuss O'Neill's comments.
Right,
The
right.
comments that we got from the board itself, we had 2 meetings. The first meeting, they gave us a list of items, and we went back the second meeting, and we feel that we addressed them all. So we're still waiting for Fuss and O'Neill comments, and once they get the final plans,
Okay.
we'll have them.
All right. Because again, it's important that we get good input from planning board.
Yep.
And because we respect a lot of the stuff that they say with regards to this,
No,
with
I
this
mean-
project, because clearly they have a lot more expertise in some of these developments than we do.
Yep.
So we're gonna need some of their input.
No, they had some good comments. A lot of it Mike had talked about tonight.
Okay. Any other questions with regards to this, guys?
Nope.
All right, so I think we're gonna open it up to if any resident has any specific questions with regards to what was discussed tonight, and would like to ask either us or the applicant for clarification, feel free. Yes, sir. Grab a mic and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's Dave Schwartz. I live at 55 Flag Road in Southborough. I've been a resident of Southborough for 37 years. I am a traffic expert on Flag Road, as having a business at home, as my wife has for these past years, and knowing a lot about trips. I want to thank the board, in particular the new chairman, Mr. Eagle, for the opportunity to address the board. Thank you, Mr. DiPietri and Mr. Catarano. Catanzaro, thank you, and to everyone that's here. A comment was made by Michael Scott, which addressed traffic issues from MDOT, and so I think that opens up a fair question about the MDOT objection to the use of Park Central Drive as both an entrance and an egress from the facility. In that report from 2013 from MDOT, they specifically indicated that there was an interweave issue with traffic exiting Park Central Drive and entering 495 North, and therefore there would be no allowance for an exit from Park Central Drive. Their rationale was based on a distance of 14 car lengths from Park Central Drive to the 495 North interchange, and the interweave issue that introduced. With that said, at the exact same time, they specifically indicated no left turn onto Flag Road. So this has all been specifically documented. Their rationale there was based on scenic country road, safety issues, and admittedly, a number of people have already submitted letters about those safety concerns. I would like to actually focus my questions towards the board, and specifically as it relates to the traffic concerns that now are implicit in the use of Flag Road as the sole exit from Park Central. And in that regard, so this has all been documented. I did my own traffic analysis. So the MDOT database is an open database. It does allow for, you can smile. That's fine. Did I say something funny? Because if it's stand-up, let me know. Because I don't think it's stand-up. Do you want to tell me why it's funny?
Excuse me, sir.
I just
please,
I think there's a lot that has to be said here. I'm really
we're trying to.
Okay, let's be
Please,
focused.
stick with the.
Okay, let's stay right with it. So the database really has current data through 2014. On August 3rd of 2016, TEC has responded to the planning board's issues and basically continues to use inaccurate data, specifically on page 76. The IER included crash analysis from 2011 to 2013 indicating no trend was identified. I did a simple MDOT query in which I was able to identify that there were 5 accidents at the 495 interchange, 31 accidents at the Flag Road interchange, 2 accidents at the Blackthorn Flag, and 3 at the Lover's Lane Flag, all before any of this additional traffic was going to be a factor. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And when I looked at the 1,054-page report that's on file, it became clear that all of the traffic from both the future development would be exiting on to John Boland. So the fundamental question I have to the board and to the Park Central Development team is really based on this analysis. This has been rejected, no exit from here. Therefore, all traffic in excess of some 3,000 trips. Again, the distribution model with K-factors, I don't think anyone here has a clue what you're talking about. And in reality, it really is not accurate in any respect as to what the implication of this intersection with respect to Flag Road really is, because if all the traffic's coming out of here and some portion of that traffic is going on to Flag Road at Route 9, the distance D3 is such that this is tantamount to a exit of Park Central Drive onto Flag Road, onto Route 9. And the point I want to make in regard to that is that the traffic report completely ignores A2. A2 is the entrance to Cumberland Farms. So if you look at the entrance to 495 North as a interweave concern, then you must have a traffic analysis that understands the entrance to A2. So I'm really interested in understanding how the traffic analysis issue is resolved and over when none of these issues have been addressed whatsoever in the reports, and this letter completely continues to ignore the traffic considerations that would require that this be treated almost like access to a state highway and require permitting. And the interweave issue here is that there's only 4 car lengths distance between F9 and the entrance to Cumberland Farms. And there are 31 accidents there already. So when tractor trailers deliver fuel to this facility, there are only 20 parking spots and 3 bays. The traffic backs up onto Route 9 right through that entrance. It's not an entrance similar to the entrance to 495 where traffic can flow through. So this is also a solar glare area at during peak traffic times. So my question to the board and to the developers, how is this ignored? And how can we possibly say the traffic issues are resolved?
Excuse me. No need for applause. It's not, this is not the quorum for applause. So it's not. Does anyone else have any other issues or questions they want to? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Carrie DuBois Mello. I live at 21 Flag Road. And I guess I've just been seeing different maps, different things going on. And I guess my first question is, based on this new plan that is here, where will cars be entering the development and where will they be exiting? And then how will they be turning?
They will be entering from Park Central Drive off of Route 9 and also through John Boland off of Flag Road. And when they're leaving, okay, all the vehicles have to leave off of John Boland, and as of right this moment, they can take a left or a right onto Flag Road. That's the way that it's designed.
So I have a couple of comments that I put together that I would just like to share with you, with the board, and with those that are here. So as I said, my name is Carrie DuBois Mello. My husband, Robert Mello, and I live at 21 Flag Road. My husband is not here this evening, although he did write a letter to the town last summer, 2015, voicing his concern for this projected Park Central complex and the impact that it will have on our neighborhood. My husband is not here tonight because he is home taking care of our 4-month-old daughter, Mackenzie. She's the main reason that I'm here tonight, because of the concerns that I have about her growing up in a neighborhood where upwards of 3,000 extra vehicles are going to be added on to Flag Road. So I would like to start by saying that I fully understand the need for housing, the need for affordable housing in Southborough and in towns in the state, as well as assisted living spaces that are projected for the next part of this plan. Before moving to Massachusetts and becoming a high school teacher, I lived in Southern California where I was a housing counselor, and I helped seniors and Latinos find housing and worked on Housing Law Matters. So I appreciate the diversity that affordable housing can bring to Southborough, yet I strongly, strongly oppose such a project if it threatens public safety. And I am gravely concerned that Park Central Complex would do just that. So the first red flag for me, and the red flag that I must admit I would have thought would stop the zoning board, was the letter that is currently posted on the town's website from Donald Morris, Southborough's planning board chairman, that he submitted in 2014 in December on behalf of the planning board, requesting that the zoning board of appeals deny this project based on safety concerns. So I found it interesting when, Mr. Eagle, you were talking about working with the planning board, when the planning board previously has said that they respectfully requested that you deny the project. And as a resident of Flag Road, I could not agree with the planning board more. My husband Rob and I moved into our home on Flag Road 4 years ago after falling in love with the charm of our 1850s house, one of the original structures on Flag Road. And for those of you who live in the neighborhood, the yellow house right up by the front with the chickens and the rooster, that's me. We loved the space, we loved the gardens, and we loved its prime location. And since then, we have become increasingly aware of the cut-through nature of Flag Road as drivers use this residential road to traverse from Main Street to Route 9. The Park Central Draft Environmental Impact Report from June 15th, 2016, that is posted on the town's website confirms this trend in the increase of traffic, noting the rise in weekday traffic from 978 cars per day in 2013 to 1,078 cars per day in 2016, and that's in tables 3-2 and 3-1 of the report. In the more recent 2016 report, 71 cars travel each hour over Flag Road during the peak rush hours of 7 to 9 a.m., and 115 cars travel each hour over Flag during 3 to 6 p.m. The study also notes in section 3.2.2, quote, although the speed limit along the roadway is 25 miles per hour, the 85th percentile speed along the roadway was measured at 37 miles per hour. So the environmental impact report sets the backdrop for the first safety concern along Flag Road, that most cars speed through this residential neighborhood. Now, I fully realize that this problem will not cease to exist, regardless of the outcome of the Zoning Board of Appeals decision regarding the Park Central development and John Boland Road. However, the additional cars from the development will exponentially exacerbate this problem. The location of my home, as the one that sits closest to the roadway along Flag Road, lends itself to a front row seat not only to the epidemic of speeding, but also to other safety issues that already exist and that would become a massive affront to public safety if the Park Central development and the John Boland Road were to exit onto Flag Road. We are a neighborhood where many adults run, walk, push strollers with infants, which I did earlier today and have done repeatedly since I've been on maternity leave with my daughter, and bike. We're also a neighborhood where many children, preteens, and teenagers walk or ride their bikes from their homes to Trotter Middle School and Neary Elementary School. Flag Road is barely wide enough to accommodate 2 cars, 2 construction vehicles, landscaping trucks, or school buses passing each other, never mind trying to navigate around pedestrians and bike riders of any age. on this curvy, somewhat hilly road, all of which causes numerous blind spots, the complete lack of sidewalks. So within this complex, there are sidewalks everywhere to safely usher youth from one spot to another, and my daughter will not have that. She will not safely walk from our home to the middle school because of all the extra cars that this development will put on Flag Road. I, as a mother, would not feel safe to have her do that. So on this curvy road, where there are numerous blind spots, there are no sidewalks, the entire length of Flag, foot traffic and bike traffic are dangerous at best and deadly at worst. So now, according to the Park Central Peer Review Traffic Study of 2016, this committee, this board, would allow up to 3,600 vehicles a day into the mix by allowing drivers to exit from the proposed John Boland Road onto Flag Road, turning left into the neighborhood. Vehicles that will most likely travel during the peak rush hours of 7 to 9 a.m. and 3 to 6 p.m., which is the same period of time that the majority of local runners, walkers, bikers, children, and teenagers utilize the road for exercise and to get to and from schools. If this were to occur, I have no doubt in my mind that Flag Road would turn from dangerous to deadly. And I hope that my daughter and my family are not the ones to suffer this fate. For if we are, or if any other family on Flag Road or the neighboring roads is the victim of that, I can assure the board that I will be here to remind them of this night and this conversation and these words. For how would you feel if these added vehicles, members of the board, if these added vehicles were to pass by your homes where your children live, where your children have grown up, turning neighborhoods that you live in that already have safety issues into safety nightmares? How much money and how much good for the town would this complex and this egress onto Flag Road do and provide when the public safety of our children is at risk? I invite any of you, board members, developer, I invite you into my home, 21 Flag Road, and you can come and explain that to my daughter Mackenzie when she is a little bit older. Until then, I thank you for the time this evening and for listening to my safety concerns, not just for myself and my daughter, but also for all of the families along Flag Road and our neighboring streets. Thank you.
I'd like to make a couple comments on what the lady has just said. One major issue was when we built the Trotter School, I was involved in part of that. And a major issue was to put a sidewalk on Deerfoot Road and all of Flag Road. And the reason it didn't get done was because all the abutters on Flag Road and Deerfoot Road refused it and objected it at town meeting to get it done and built. Otherwise, we would have had it. Also, the developer has also agreed to put sidewalks on these roads now, which the developers of all the abutters have also required not to. The other issue is Flag Road is not the only road in Southborough that has a traffic issue. I live on Oak Hill Road. Oak Hill Road now has a major traffic issue from the Lights in Fayetteville to Ashland Town Line with over 4,000 cars between 7 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock in the morning. And the traffic's backed up over 4.5 miles every day. There's a few other roads in town that have the same issue, which have people that walk and have kids on them, which are the same way as this is. And as far as the entrance and exit off of Flag Road, this is something the board might want to consider, is that originally we talked about it, some of it going out of Blackthorn and in that area, which would put some of it on the other end of Flag Road. So maybe that's something that we want to talk about.
Excuse me. Shh. We respect the person talking.
And that would be something, to talk about in the future too, also maybe. But, as far as what the girl had said, and we understand the safety issue. The other issue is that in 2014, as chairman of this board, I made the developer do his traffic studies before we went forward to approve or discuss any issues on this project. and they were done. We also hired a consultant from the town, which was done through Jennifer, the town planner, that we had, that did the review and everything. And before this project went into any strong conditions of approval and everything, we had the traffic study done and done by the consultants, presented to the public, presented to the board, with no safety issues on it, with a 29% larger project than is presently here today. Thank you.
Lee, let me ask you a question. What were you saying about proposing to alleviate some of the traffic?
Well, instead of making it all go,
Excuse me,
out
excuse
on-
me. If anyone in the audience has a comment to make, I would suggest you grab a mic and don't hide back there. Grab a mic and introduce yourself to the public. Because unless you're willing to, unless you're willing to identify yourself, then I may ask you to leave the room, okay? I'm just trying to be polite to everyone and give everyone a chance to talk. But if people are talking and criticizing people when they make comments, then we're not going to get much done. That's all. I respect everyone in this room's opinion, and I think everyone should listen to everyone. That's all. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle. You're right, it's getting...
We're having a conversation here.
Wait, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
he pointed to
I
me.
did ask. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Finish.
Howard.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul.
I had asked Lee what he
Yes.
was getting at with alleviating some of the traffic onto Flag, so you're
well,
saying...
the thing was that if we go up to Black Fawn and have it one way out of the project through Black Fawn down to that end of Flag Road, that would eliminate, you know, maybe 20-30% of the traffic going all the way down Flag Road and just go down the end of it. And the other thing that could be something to be concerned of is put a sign at the end of Lover's Lane directed to Route 30 down through that way, which would take some of the traffic, rest of the traffic off of Flag Road and put it on different roads that would make it better splitting it up to the town. But that's something that we could
Well,
discuss later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less concerned about not here, but what you're saying on this site, you're saying maybe look into some other means of egress then?
We can have 4 egresses through the subdivision if it's something that
Well,
would be.
okay,
But
let
that
me-
would be something to discuss later.
Right. I mean, this is Paul, you're bringing up things that were brought up well over a year ago, and neighbors vetted it out, and the developer worked with the neighbors and thought it would be the best solution to force everything onto that one road, which was the closest to Route 9.
Okay.
Because of the fact that, you know, even though there are obviously traffic issues with that road because of the nature of the way it's been built, we felt as though the majority, the vast majority of people that are leaving this site are going to exit onto Route 9 and not turn left and head towards downtown Southborough, unless they're dropping a kid off at school. I mean, there's really not a lot of businesses down that end of town that people want access during the normal course of business. So our feeling, I think, was that people leave the site, they're going to take a right, they're going to get onto Route 9. It will make the least amount of impact on Flag Road. If we start dropping cars off on further down, then, you know, you may have, you know, other traffic impacts further away and maybe compounding a bad problem and make it even worse. I know that because of this development and because of the focus on Flag Road, I know that that both the selectmen and the highway department has taken a real hard look at this site since then, because it's always been a concern of this town. Anyone that's driven down this road knows what we're talking about. And I think that I think Karen at the highway department has made some suggestions and is working with the selectmen and I'm sure the neighbors to try to see if we can alleviate, because obviously if we don't want to make it so it's so quick that cars can go even faster. So there's a fine line between widening the road, maybe cutting back some trees, maybe adding a sidewalk, and also keeping the traffic down. We talked about, there was mention about speed bumps and things like that. So there has been a refocus of efforts to try to really curtail traffic on Flag Road. I don't want you to think that it's not being addressed. It's actually we're actually focusing, not just this board, but again, other boards in this town are really focusing on Flag Road and getting the best solution. So go ahead, Howard, sorry.
Thank you. Howard Rose, 2 Bantry. I appreciate pulling it back. It's hostile because, as you can see, the room's filled more than it has ever been because this is the hot topic. It's not even, we don't want the project anymore. It's this one thing. I want to bring a couple of things up. One, Mr. Bertolini, way back, you mentioned that we will never have in this town commercial and residential traffic mixed on a road. We now have that, because what's coming from that office building is coming onto Flag Road on that connector. So what you swore we would never have, you're about to approve. So
No.
please consider that.
You're wrong. It is on commercial property. Residential property is allowed through commercial property. Commercial property is not allowed through residential, so that development could not go through Blackthorn or up in there. But where it is, that is zoned commercial property.
You've bypassed that, and now you now have residential areas.
Has nothing to
So
do
we
with
can go
Flag
back and
Road.
forth, that's fine, consider it.
It's a residential zoning, it's a commercial zoning.
Zone.
The access road is on the commercial side of it, Howard.
It's
Okay.
on commercial property.
Okay. Two more quick points on this subject, and I'm going to keep it brief because we've gone through this over and over again. I'm going to ask, you guys are writing conditions on this. I would like to present these to you if I may.
Sure.
You've seen one of them already. These are from the state that specifically call out no left turn. Here is the alternative plan, no left turn. This is TEC's report out of the DIR, which is the developer's report that calls
Well, we don't know
absolutely no
under
traffic.
what context this was written.
I encourage you to read the report.
Well,
It's
okay,
in the report. This is the DIR report. This should be familiar with this. It specifically calls out no traffic from the site going left, taking the turn onto Flag. I asked you to consider, following the documents that the state have gone by, I ask you to write to condition, based on what the state has conditioned it on, no traffic turning onto Flag. Consider it, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Turning left on the flag.
Turning left onto Flag, which is exactly what the state has approved and is in every document the state has right now, what the state has going towards Route 9, what the town, why we think our reports are better than what the state, who does this for a living, says is beyond me. The state has it going no turn left. This is
Well,
the
I mean, this
opportunity.
is a document that's 3 years old.
That is the latest document done by the state.
Okay. I'll be
On
more
their
than happy
website.
to, we'll absolutely
That's all I
consider
ask.
it.
Reconsider it as you do your conditions.
Absolutely, Miss-
Look at that.
Mr.
Thank you.
Rose. Okay. Would you like to answer? No.
Yeah, we'd like to address a couple of
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, look, we've been talking about traffic for 18 months. 4 traffic studies, over $100,000 spent. Not that I don't want to talk about it anymore, but we just keep bringing up the same issues over and over again. The studies have shown, yes, there's more traffic, but it's not additional safety. I've volunteered to work with the town to work together to put sidewalks on Flag Road. The energy that's being spent tonight and meetings past, the neighbors should get together, grant easements to the town to allow them to cut down trees and put sidewalks in. I mean, they complain about not safe, not safe, not safe. Well, let's do something about it. If it's not safe today, why not do something about it today? I mean, they want to sit here and say it's not safe, but yet they don't want to do anything about it. If we could get easements, cut down trees, we could have a sidewalk on Flag Road from John Boland Drive all the way down to the middle school.
Right, well,
And it alleviates the problems.
exactly.
I mean,
And
we can
some
sit here
people-
and complain about it, but not do nothing about it. It doesn't do any good.
2 more
So-
comments, please?
Hang on, I'm not done.
Please, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thought you were done.
The office still stands. And if anyone, Mr. Schwartz, who I've not seen before, we've been here for 30 months, 25 meetings, I've never seen some of these people here before, but they're coming out, no problem. I'm willing to have another meeting with the traffic. Hang on,
I didn't hear what you just
I
said.
hadn't seen you here before.
And then you said something else?
I said some of the other people I've not seen here either.
said I was happy
So I
they were
said,
here.
I'm willing to have a meeting, bring the traffic consultant back again to address their concerns at my office, not here.
okay, I mean, that's a standing offer, and
Respectfully, two
Okay.
more
Something
comments?
that else has happened here that's not understood by a lot of people. In the 2.5 years that we've done this, it's only been in the last 4 to 5 months that we've had people from Sears Road that have got involved so strongly in this project. Prior to this, when we were doing approval on the rest of it, it was only the people from Blackthorn and up in the back area. So this has made it a little bit different.
not Sears Road, you mean
Flag Road.
Right.
Flag Road, which is the people in Blackthorn and those other roads in the back that were more involved in it than presently. So this has changed it a little bit.
Respectfully, 2 more things. One of the things that changed it is every traffic report even the one that's in there still refused to address pedestrian and bicycle traffic. It wasn't until this board actually asked the selectmen to study Flag Road that it came out how unsafe it is. So as you do that, that is new information. I'm not even sure it's been entered in with this board yet. That report has to be considered. The other thing you must remember, the access to make that turn is not required for this project. The state doesn't require it. MassDOT doesn't. There's no require from the 40B project whatsoever to take that left. This project can go forward without disrupting the town. I heard talking about cutting down trees. This is a country road. It's designated as a country road, and that's actually something I'd like to see put into the conditions as well. Something reminding it and stating that that is a country road that cannot be touched because there are no rights of way. There are no ways to put sidewalks in there. That needs to be part of of your conditions as well.
Well, I mean, that may be your opinion, but maybe the opinion of the audience may be different. I've heard some concerns about people that wanted to be able to push their children in carriages down the street, and then maybe a sidewalk might work for them.
That is correct, but
Okay,
there's
so
no argument.
we have to take into account different opinions.
And I agree, but
can't-
there is no argument that it's designated a country road.
Can we put orders and conditions on Flag Road when it's not pertaining to the project?
No, we can't.
We
The
can't.
thing, the board has to remember, and
We can make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, but
That
we
the-
can't put an order of conditions.
the thing with Mass Housing approval was when the members asked us about Flag Road, we talked to Mass Housing. We have no authority, this board has no authority on Flag Road at all, nor does this board have any authority for the 40B project with Flag Road. No.
But you do have the authority of John Boland, I think it is, that turns onto that. That is entirely in
Nothing.
your authority.
We have nothing to do with Flag Road.
No,
But you
no,
do,
no, we have
no,
the-
John
we-
Boland
yeah.
coming in.
Right,
You
we
have
have
the,
right.
you have the
You're right.
authority.
If the
to make it
project
go that way.
was on Flag Road and built on Flag Road, it would be, but because it's just an access, we have, under the 40B regulations, we have no authority on Flag Road. That's why we sent
Not-
it to the
not on
Board of
Flag Road,
Selectmen
sir.
to do whatever they want to do on it.
Do you agree?
I know
You don't,
what
you
you're
don't have it on Flag Road, but you do have the right on John Boland of which way the traffic goes. Again, the left is not required to make this project happen. There's enough things that you should be considering as you do this. Please, look at all the facts and the safety that you have in front of you and the reports that you asked for.
But I thought you were saying an order of conditions to keep Flag a country road, and that we don't have any jurisdiction over what.
I'm not saying to keep it that way. There should be some mention in there that it is a country road. Just state the fact.
We did quote the fact of the left-hand turn, and instead of doing the left-hand turn, we'll make Flag Road one way and do
That
it
doesn't
that way.
solve, respectfully, that
That
doesn't
was-
solve the
I mean, we
problem.
could
Recommend it, we don't have any ability to do it.
Yeah. We can
And
do it somewhere
respectfully, that puts the exact same
Mr.
traffic as
Rose,
two
we
ways,
will
but thank you.
absolutely take your points in context, and
Thank you.
we will definitely consider them, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, too, on putting this together.
John Green, 10 Tower Road. I think obviously, last time we were in here, Mr. Catanzaro asked us to do some additional research as residents, you know, to talk a little bit further about the traffic. So what we're finding is that there are conflicting reports with the TEC study, which was done for the developer. So I'd like you to take a lot of this into account. I'd like you to read it over, understand it, as well as the documents that Howard has provided you, because I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, the developer's traffic engineer saying, well, there's no problem, right? We have areas on the road that are about 15 feet wide. They're not wide enough for landscape trucks, emergency vehicles, and buses to pass each other. You're gonna have major standing traffic between John Boland down to Flag Road where you exit to Route 9. It's gonna be sitting traffic during the day. 3-minute wait times, level of service, with a no-build capacity, which I've submitted a number of times over and over to you. Hopefully you've read those documents and comments. Level of service will be an F and an F at both morning hours as well as peak hours. Another thing in comment to the planning board, so Mr. DePietri made it sound like everything was all set with the planning board. I don't think that that's the case. The planning board, I believe, is still waiting for a final plan to be able to do their entire site plan review. I believe that this board, through some of their conditions or waivers, actually waived, I think, 17 out of 21 of the points that the planning board can actually make comments on. I'm hoping that the planning board is going to make comments on 21 out of 21, and that the ZBA and the new chair is going to take those comments into account, as well as the Board of Selectmen has told us that they would address the safety issue
with Flag Road, hopefully the no left-hand turn, as well as potential sidewalks, because, you know, us as citizens, it's okay for Bill to sit there and say, hey, why don't I go out there and knock on everybody's door and tell them I'm gonna take 4 feet of their land up and down, right? It's not gonna happen. He knows it, I know it. The only way to address any of those issues is through the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen need to address this project. They need to have input as to what happens on Flag Road, and they have to make the necessary adjustments to make this project work. The other thing we have never talked about, and I don't know why, is why are we trying to put 30 pounds of crap into a 5-pound box? So we're talking about 325 units, 180 of which are 40B, right? 40B. So those are 25% of those will be affordable rental units, right? 25%. So 25% of 180, my math, how many? 30? 45. So 45 out of the 320, I think we're down 3, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, are actually affordable units. So we're taking a 40B project in which the mass state voters voted on for affordable housing, right? I don't think that this is what we had in mind, right? We also have a hotel, we got an assisted living center, we've got 140, probably roughly, in my family's in real estate, so these are probably about $500,000–600,000 a piece for profit. We are clear cutting all the way to the neighborhood landlines, right? They made an agreement with like 5 or so of the abutters. This development is going to affect everybody back here, right? So the use variance they put in and they say neighbors really is about 5 houses, right? You've got hundreds of houses that are going to be affected by this. You wonder why the people on Flag didn't show up? Because they didn't receive letters to begin with, right? They don't get letters.
I had no idea. The reason you didn't meet me is I had never been given any information.
So I'll speak for them. There's no letters that are ever given to any of the folks on Flag Road. Until the people within this neighborhood go out and stuff mailboxes, nobody knows about it, right? Sorry, people don't pick up the newspaper anymore. They don't read it. It's 2016. So my suggestion is we look at an order of conditions that will push this buffer probably 50 to 100 feet off of here. We lose a big chunk of this. We drastically reduce the traffic that's coming out. We look at certain ways that we can mitigate some of the traffic along Flag Road. We look at ways that we can work with Mass DOT down here, but there is no reason that we're trying to put 320 units on this piece, along with an assisted living center, a hotel, and now we've got existing traffic that I think you had asked about earlier, the existing traffic from the gas station, the hotel, and the office building, all having access to Flag Road. The traffic study was never done on all of this. I know that they have a report that they brought out saying everything's fine. The numbers that we did originally are more than sufficient. I asked Mr. DeGray in this room if the traffic study that he did took into account any of this traffic. He said no. I can go back, pull the tapes, I can give you the minutes, I can give you whatever you want. But it was never accounted for. After the fact, of course, Mr. DePietri pays him. Another guy from TEC sends a letter out that is sent to me by Karen that says, no, it was accounted for, it's fine. Everything's always fine, right? Everything in here is fine. There's no safety concerns, there's no width problems on the road, there's no traffic problems, there's no sightline problems, nothing, right? So we go over this over and over again, and I agree with you, we've been talking about it forever. Problem is nobody's done anything about it. Nobody's thought about anything to mitigate any of the issues with this project. It is too big, it has too much traffic associated with it, and it is a detriment to all of the neighbors, the safety of everybody in the area, and you need to wake up and do something about it. Thank you.
The thing that you don't
One of the things that Mr. Green, you don't understand, or maybe you don't appreciate, is the fact that the applicant could have built a lot more units on this property and went with all 40B, and he had the ability to work with the town, work with the neighbors, and reduce it. Go to rentals. It wasn't the initial choice of the applicant to go with rental units.
I don't think it was I don't think the town asked for it. We
The
didn't ask
project,
for it. You did. Mr.
the
Bartolini
project
asked for it.
was converted by
I'd rather have it be for sale.
50%. The original profit was 588 units, and we got it cut down to the 303. So we've cut it in half, which that would have got approved by the state with no problems, and it would have been done.
I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I think the state would have not approved that at all.
Wait, excuse me, ma'am.
We'll give her an
Okay,
opportunity to
right.
talk. That's fine.
Thank you.
But I don't agree with you that he had any chance of getting that number of units put forth. I think it's a scare tactic. It was a scare tactic all along to try to put 500 units on the lot lines, 4-story buildings, right on top of other neighbors' houses. So I don't agree with you. I don't think the state would have approved that at all.
Well, the
And-
state
and
did.
There would have been, obviously a long, drawn-out battle with all.
State did do it. Ed Monchant was our counsel for the representative for the state for us.
I was
And
here.
our consultant. And he stated that the 588 units would be approved, that Mr. Petrie could approve the 2 of them immediately, and right now, this year, he could approve the 3rd one.
I don't agree with you.
And that would be done. And the thing that a lot of people in this town doesn't realize, and they've made comments and just don't know the history of our town. The reason we have so many 40B projects in the town of Southborough is the fact that the town of Southborough has zoning bylaws that do not allow condos in our town. We're one of the only towns in the area that don't allow condos. Developers have come into us and built the 40Bs because they get permitting for 25%, and 75% can be regular housing or whatever. And that's why we've got all these 40B projects in the town of Southborough.
How many did the developer out on your Oak Hill Road go for before he ended up with, what, 12 or 16? He was going
He
for
came in with 44 units.
44 units and ended up with 12.
Yes.
Okay. So he comes in with 325 and gets 325?
Yeah, but they had different issues.
No, that's not true.
Nothing to do with that.
That's not true. That's just not true. He originally proposed a lot more, and
Yeah,
that's...
and you know what?
Other projects
With
are
500,
irrelevant.
we'd
Right,
be
well,
talking
keep in
about
mind,
the
this
same
is a-
issues,
this
same
is a
exact
piece of
issues
an-
here. Traffic, no entrance, no egress. Oak Hill Road has a light. It goes out to Route 9. There's no light here.
All right, we'd like to see if any other people have any
Absolutely.
comments. We don't want to keep on moving on.
Thank you. My name is Ben Kais. I live on 43 Lovers Lane. And I just want to add one comment to this whole discussion. There are a lot of kids living in these neighborhoods. It's not just Flag Road. It's not just Blackthorn, Bantry, Tara Road. Lovers Lane, Deerfoot, Lindbrook Road. Some of these kids are not school age yet, but a lot of them are. And if you go and look at the website that gives you the bus routes for Southborough, I was online earlier today. And looking at the bus stops on Flag Road, Deerfoot, Lovers Lane, and Lindbrook Roads, which will all be affected by this. It's not just a matter of Flag Road. I mean, all of these roads are cut-through roads. Every day, these buses are taking kids to Algonquin, Trottier, Neary, Finn, Woodward schools. In the peak commuter traffic hour in the morning, between 6:30 and 7:50, there's a total of 62 stops. That means buses are stopping 62 times. And it doesn't matter how wide the road is. Everyone has to stop behind a bus, right? It can be as wide as you want with sidewalks, but it's going to cause a massive backup problem. And that's just something I don't know that traffic studies have taken into account enough. Traffic has to stop behind buses no matter how wide the road is. I'm just really, I am concerned. I have 3 young children at the end of Lovers Lane. Lovers Lane is, everyone who lives in the neighborhood knows that it's a cut-through road to get to Route 30 west. That's the quickest way. And people drive really fast on Lovers Lane. It is narrow. If there's a utility truck, a garbage truck, landscape truck parked on the road, which often happens, you sometimes have to stop and back up. Or if two cars are coming, oftentimes one car has to pull over. And so it is, I like the fact that it's a small country road, actually. That's part of the reason why I want to live in that neighborhood. It's a scenic road. And so the idea of cutting down trees on both sides of Lovers Lane and adding sidewalks is not appealing to me at all. It's already problematic. What I'm saying is the added traffic volume with this development is just untenable, I think. And I know that people have been saying it over and over again for several years. I understand that. But the reason we keep saying it over and over again is because it has not been sufficiently addressed. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Karen Shimkus, Limbrook Road, and I've spent the last 25 years of my career evaluating large-scale commercial real estate projects. I agree with some of the comments here made tonight that it's too big and too much traffic, and I think what people need to realize is that use, the ultimate use of the project, actually determines traffic. So I've had the question put to me, are we against the use or are we against the traffic? Well, they're one and the same because the use generates the traffic. I'd like to read a letter into the record, please. Southborough Board of Selectmen, Southborough Planning Board, Southborough Zoning Board of Appeals, MHFA, to whom it may concern. Please incorporate this letter as part of the record in consideration of the above-named project. BOS, please attach this letter to your response to local and state entities, including MIPA. Please see the following link from the Mass DOT completed studies page. Completed studies page. Route 9, final, chapter 4. The key part is section 4.2.5 on page 4-13, which states, left turns from the new connector road would be prohibited to reduce traffic on Flag Road, a narrow roadway which serves a residential neighborhood. I hope you find the above information helpful.
Yeah, could we get a copy of that, ma'am? We'd like to just get a copy. If you want to submit it to the record, we'd like a copy.
It's on the state website.
Well, you know what? It has to
Been
be
there
submitted. If you want to
it's been
submit
there
it
since
as a, if you want to submit it,
Karen,
and
I'll
make
give
it
you a
as
copy.
public record in our town, you have to really submit it as a public.
That's been
record.
submitted. That letter's been submitted to you and all these boards, as I just read.
Do you have a copy
Probably, yeah.
of that? Do you know who you submitted it to?
I just read Southborough Board of Selectmen, Planning Board,
No,
Zoning
did you
Board of Appeals.
mail it? Did you hand deliver it? How
I
did you-
hand delivered it. It's double stamped.
Oh, yeah, I was out of the office. It was on a Friday morning.
Okay.
On a
Double
Friday-
stamped July 22nd.
Was that a Friday morning?
July 22nd.
All right, I'll have to,
Okay, that's fine. As long as we have it on file, that's fine.
all right.
Okay, I'd like to read into the record.
Because you came in, I have never seen you. You must have come in when I was out of the office. is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
you know what? Actually, your colleague would not accept the letter. I had to go down to the clerk,
Don't have it.
and it was accepted by the Board of Selectmen and the clerk.
town clerk's
on your
got a copy.
behalf.
Okay, that's fine.
September 11th, 2013. This is on Town of Southborough letterhead, Department of Public Works. Residents have requested that the town add sidewalks to Flag and that we widen Flag. By the way, this is from Karen Galligan, DPW Superintendent. To accommodate additional traffic, the town has looked into these items several times. And unfortunately, the right-of-way does not accommodate additional road assets, such as sidewalks and breakdown lanes. Therefore, I do not believe the work on Flag Road, apart from the new entrance exit, should be requested as part of this project.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do that anyhow. We already discussed that.
Okay, let's discuss the law for a second. Under 40B law, the ZBA is responsible for balancing regional housing needs with the following local concerns. This is out of Mr. Monchant's, the 40B experts, report. A, health. Now, if people are trapped inside their homes because of thousands of traffic trips going by their house, I don't know how, that's irremediable. Safety, environmental, design, open space, planning, other local concerns. It's the law. It's the law. I'll leave you this, too.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
This is, Mr. Monchon has agreed and approved all these issues. It was done back during the traffic study, and all of them were approved and agreed by Mr. Monchon. And we have it in writing, and that was done over a year and a half ago.
None of the traffic studies and peer reviews cite the prohibition by the state of no left-hand turn, none of them. The ZBA itself did not acknowledge it, even after being alerted to it. Very disconcerting. The study also cites roadway failures. I'd like to read these into the record.
if you're gonna read them in again.
Roadway failures.
Excuse me, ma'am. If
Yes.
you're gonna read them in, do we have, are we, you're
Yes,
gonna
we'll
submit?
I'll give this to
Okay,
Karen.
thank you.
You've got it already. It's in the draft environmental impact report.
Well, then you don't need to read them into the record.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you need to read it
Mass
into the record.
DOT,
Yeah,
Excuse me, why you need to read it into the record if it's already in the record?
because these people haven't heard it.
Okay, then.
Well, we're
Mass
trying to,
DOT,
we
memorandum
have-
dated
excuse me,
February
ma'am.
19th, 2016.
Ma'am, excuse me. I think you're rehashing things that have already been discussed many times. I'd like to have other people, if they have others, it's really not fair to other people that may have some questions or comments to make concerning tonight's meeting. I think everyone in the room gets the gist
no.
of your.
I've got one more quick thing, sorry. This memo from DOT is dated February 19th, 2016. This is only a few months ago. Route 9 Park Central Drive intersection. This intersection is expected to experience poor levels of service with and without the additional project-related traffic at this location. So my question is why are we asking these questions and not you?
Dear Lord.
Why did the developer's plans reflect turning left and right onto Flag in spite of the state prohibition? Why has the town entertained this in these plans for the past 3 years? Is there an answer?
Yes, these issues are not clear at all, Mrs. Bashan. The state has agreed.
My name is Shimkus.
Ms. Shimkus, the state has agreed with Mr. DePietri to rebuild the intersection of Flag Road and Route 9. It's been agreed, they're going to redesign it and rebuild it. It's been done, and it's all approved by the state. The intersection will become straight. You'll come down to Flag Road and come straight onto it, and you'll have a sharp right-hand turn instead of having the 90-degree turn to get onto Route 9. That's being eliminated, and it's going to be, you'll come down to be a straight right-hand turn onto Route 9.
Just a
And
couple
that's
other.
being done by
sorry.
DOT, recommending that Mr. DePietri do it because he does own the land on both sides of it and have the area to do it.
I do need to address the point that Mr. Eagle made about this going rental and 588 units, et cetera, and a 40B. Well, the fact of the matter is that's a myth, okay? Because 40Bs
And that's-
in the first
that was already said
instance
by someone
have
else,
to
too.
address health and safety because that's the law. That's the 40B law. So in the first instance, you have to check those boxes.
That's been done, ma'am.
Okay,
And the point
ma'am,
was just made.
Okay,
so-
and also I'm wondering if the project extension deadline expired on 6/30/16.
You'll have to check on that then.
What's that?
If the project extension deadline has expired, the applicant must refile as a matter of law.
no, it did not expire.
It did, unfortunately.
What? It's been
I've
extended.
reviewed the tapes 4 times, and you did not make a motion, and you did not take a vote to extend the project deadline from June 30th at the June 29th meeting. So if you look at the minutes, those aren't approved yet. It's okay, it's on tape.
It was taken care of.
Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, can I address that to clarify what I believe is a misconception? Under Chapter 40B, this board, under the law of 40B, has, I believe it's 40 days following the close of the public hearing in which to enter a decision. Okay, the public hearing is still open, as we all know and as we all sit through them week after week. The deadline of your reaching a decision, we can extend, but we can't make it shorter than 40 days before the public hearing is over. So this board has full authority to act. Okay, you have the authority to act for that period of time, okay, following the close of the public hearing. okay? And I do agree that there have been discussions about extending the time within which to make your decision, and it's a gratuity, because the law gives you 40 days after the close of the public
Okay,
hearing.
actually, some
I
of that is
spoke-
not correct.
I spoke to Attorney Cipriano about this also, because we read the letter that was submitted, I don't know whether it was to the board or to the town, about that issue, and that's the law. And if she wants to disagree with that, that's fine, okay? But, you know,
We're-
we've done
we're
a lot
talking
of
about-
40B projects, and the time within which the board has to act has not expired, and it won't expire until a certain period of time after the close of the public hearing.
Apples and oranges.
Okay?
We're talking about two different things. The project extension deadline, as it reads on the 6/29 meeting minutes, is a separate date, completely different from the continuance of the public hearing.
Correct.
Correct. There was discussion and a vote, a motion made and a vote taken for a continuance of the public hearing portion. Fine, no problem. And that's what you're talking about.
No, I'm not.
Oh, no, hang on. I'm not done. Completely different and separate is the project extension deadline itself. So if you look on that agenda that day, it reads 6/30/2016. Okay, now no motion for this to be legal. I've run boards, okay? For this to be legal, you have to make a motion and take a vote. That was never done. So I ran that by a friend of mine who just happens to be 40 years chairing the ZBA in Boston. And he said, indeed, that seems to be an error.
Well, okay, so you've made, this is something that's new to me, and I guess.
You're running a board.
I understand that, but you're making a statement, and you don't have anything right
Well,
now.
my first question was, can someone please, check on this? Because I've checked on it. I don't know why I'm checking on it, because I'm a citizen of the town. There should be someone in
Okay.
charge
All right.
checking on this.
You have a point. All right, are you wrapping up? Because I'd like to move on to maybe the next person that has a
Well,
comment.
my question for the ZBA specifically is this. One, I'd like to see you answer Mr. Schwartz's question before the night closes. But why do the agendas for the meeting dates after 6/29/16 show a new project extension deadline date of 8/31/16? It was a miracle. That's the only way I can explain it. There was no motion and no vote. But then you look at the subsequent agendas, and presto changeo, it's 8/31/16. So I don't know how that happened. So my question to you is, how did that happen?
When the extension gets ready, we appeal it. We request an extension, we get it in writing from the developer to extend the deadline. Now, the August 31st deadline, I thought was done at the beginning of July, or somewhere around that time that we did it. But it's always been done that way, and it's been done in writing. And
No.
it's all in file.
Okay, now that's all incorrect. Because you were meeting the day before the deadline. You were meeting June 29th. So the project extension deadline was actually the next day, June 30th, which is why you were meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if the deadline did come and pass, and the board hasn't acted as was required under the statute, it is known as a constructive approval. We are not pressing for a constructive approval. Again, 40B, the project extension deadline, is 40 days after you close the public hearing, regardless of what was written on that piece of paper. When the public hearing is open, you have time to render a decision. And again, if she wants to have legal opinion or discuss it with town council, then so be it. Or we'll be very happy with a constructive approval, and we can take it from there.
Well, I happen to disagree
that's-
with that take on constructive approval, because at the close of the meeting, he asked you and confirmed with you whether or not there was any further discussion, and you had confirmed there wasn't.
Correct. So, make a decision. They didn't make it, then it's constructive
Well,
approval.
again, something to be looked
You have to-
into.
You have to be careful of what
Okay,
you're
all right.
looking for.
Ma'am,
did-
can
I
I?
did-
Move on.
I did have a brief conversation.
Ma'am, can I
I did have a brief-
respectfully ask that you?
Last point.
No, you said
Last
this
point.
20 minutes ago was your last point. I think I've
Last-
gone
I'm sorry,
beyond.
very brief.
Please,
Last point.
ma'am, I'm going to ask you
Entertain.
politely. There'll be other meetings. I think you've had that you've had that mic for a half hour now, and I
I'm
think it's
sorry.
unfair for the rest of the...
One sentence.
Yeah,
I spoke with
ma'am,
Mass
I'm gonna-
Housing, and they said that this is too dense. They
Okay.
were shocked at the density. Mass Housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Alan Bezanson. I'm at 20 Deerfoot Road. I've been there 47 years. I'm not in a butter to this. I watched this the explanation of the traffic study back at the selectmen's meeting, and it prompted me to do a little of my own. And so I'd like to show you a couple. It'll take me a few minutes. This, by the way, this is the first time I've gotten up at one of these meetings, which have been going on for a long, long time. So if you just bear with me for a couple of minutes.
No problem.
So we all heard a traffic study that addressed Flag Road down through Deerfoot Road. And it went on and on. But there were a couple of points there. The user variance that this board agreed upon last year specifies that Park Central can exit both ways onto Flag Road, both ways. So the first question that comes to mind is, well, in the traffic study, how come we didn't talk about going right onto Route 9? Mr. Schwartz just told you that that exit onto from Flag onto 9 is highly dangerous. So anyway, this is a couple shots from my traffic study. Thank you. Okay, I guess you all know that spot, maybe not everybody that's looking at it, but what you're looking at here, that's not the Bronx, that's Madison Place, which is, by the way, the proposed residents of Park Central are 2 1/3 times more residents than that. And then, of course, we're talking about some other things that maybe this, maybe that, maybe this is going to exit on this. So now, I love this place. I don't know, can you all see this? I'm a former race car driver, and this is like a pit. This is like the Indy 500 pits. I drove at the Westboro Speedway. I was a founding member of the Marlboro Piston Pushers 65 years ago, one of the first hot rod clubs outside of California. I love racing. So anyway, I walked over there, and I shot up. I said, well, I'm going to wait until somebody comes out of the merge here. And so I clicked the camera, and then I noticed, holy smoke, this car, it's like, just as he's coming out, abruptly from the center lane, goes diving right across him, because he remembered he needed to get a cup of coffee before he got on 495, like a whole lot of other people. And cut him right off. And by the way, it's 4 car lengths from here to Cumberland Farms. Like, pretty tricky. Common occurrence. In fact, okay, so And of course, you all know we got, liquor store, used car place, Wendy's, all that stuff. Cars are coming out, this and that, weaving. It's real sporty. But in the morning, commute, when the sun is in your eyes, it's like impossible. So, and then this is 31 Crash Corner, according to this, which, by the way, was published a couple of years before this board agreed, okay, to come out of Park Central on the user variance, go either way. All right, so now, so much for that. So now, if we turn left on Flag, here we are, that's 21 Flag. A lot of you recognize it. Historic house, built either in 1840 or 1865 or 18, But now, this is interesting. I put this photo on my Southborough, and somebody came up there and said, that rude cyclist, what's he doing there in the middle of the road? Well, I'll tell you what he was doing there. It was about 8:15. He was going to Trotter School at about 25 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. And this guy zooms right by him on the other side of the road. So you can put sidewalks there. You can make the road wider. People will go faster. And guess what? The bikes aren't going to go down the sidewalk. It's a school zone, 2 schools near here. So anyway, my last one. There you are. By the way, actually, this was a couple of minutes before the kid on the bike. The kid with the black hair and the black shirt on the black bike. He must have missed the bus. But you can't, I mean, a car can't even get around that bus. This road is characteristic of Lover's Lane, Clifford. They all got their bad spots. You know well that cars, all these cars coming out of there. Oh, by the way, maybe it's like everybody that goes into Cumberland Farms for a cup of coffee is going to have to come out behind there and go on Flag, and then maybe take the shortcut across Lovers and Lynbrook and up Northborough Road to get on 495 that way. So anyway, it's a school zone. This road, beautiful, historic, scenic, is characteristic of all the other roads in this neighborhood. I don't understand how you could even consider, when you reviewed that user variance. By the way, who was the author of the user variance? Can you tell me that?
What do you mean the author?
It was a unanimous decision.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
All right.
5
So
members of the board.
when you reviewed the user variance, and the information is out there a couple of years before you even signed off on it about how dangerous the Flag 9 merge is, and you all understand this neighborhood, I don't get it. I just,
That wasn't done. That wasn't done.
Dave.
For none.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Majid Yazdani, 16A Bantry. So I'd like to address a couple of things that have been brought up earlier today already. I appreciate Mr. Bartolini's comment that he would like our roads and neighborhood be as unsafe as his. Just because there are unsafe roads in town doesn't mean that that's going to be the standard, and we should have other roads in our town becoming more unsafe than they already are. Based on a traffic study that was commissioned by these boards, paid by the developer, presented to the Board of Selectmen, Flag Road is already an unsafe road. Mitigations have been proposed, but no decisions have been made. Why are we moving ahead with a project that is going to put more traffic on a road that is already deemed unsafe before we even know what we're doing with this road? So that's number one. Number two, as Mr. Green pointed, whether it is or it's not a scare tactic developed to basically encourage the neighbors into agreeing with this project, putting 500 units on this project initially would not have been approved by the Mass Housing. And let me explain to you why. The board and the town has the ability to say no. I don't care if it's a 40B or not. Due to safety reasons, you have the ability to say no or put certain restrictions and limitations on this project. Perfect example, Sudbury. Few years ago, a developer which we are familiar with, Mr. Moss, tried to develop a project there. Sudbury Town did not approve the project. They fought over it. They finally bought the land, and now the town is going to use that property and develop it as open space or conservation land. Coming more recently, another 40B developer is trying to develop another project in town. The town has hired independent counsel to advocate for the town against this project. Why is it that Sudbury is able to do these things and we're not? Do we have a board that is advocating for the residents? Do we have a board that advocates for what's good for the town? Or do we have a board that is turning a blind eye to what is going to be an unsafe project in this neighborhood? Can you please answer me that question?
The zoning board's duty with regards to 40B is not something that we developed ourselves, and it should not be different from town to town. This is a state law.
Okay.
Okay, so if the town of Sudbury opts to object or fight or resist in certain ways, their resistance is totally separate from any type of resistance we may encounter here in Southborough. You can't compare one issue to another.
Well,
You know, you're making it sound as though, what I'm hearing from you when you say, particularly when you mention that second developer in Sudbury,
Yes.
what I'm hearing you say is, look at Sudbury, their anti-snob laws are much stricter than ours.
It has
And
nothing
I
to do
think
with
that that's
snob
really
laws.
unfair to the people that want to live in this town that truly cannot afford to
It
live
has
in this town.
absolutely nothing to
I
do
think
with
that would-
snob laws. I disagree with
Well,
you.
that's the way I took it when you just said
Well,
that. I'm sorry.
What I am trying to
You just got up
relay,
and said, Mr. Bartolini made a comment, he wants to make your roads as unsafe as his. He didn't say that.
he specifically said
He
that.
did not.
Oak Hill has,
Okay,
not say he wants to make
let's
your
just
roads
stick to the
unsafe as
topics.
his.
I don't want to get off topic. If you want to make another
let's not
comment.
get off topic.
Okay.
This is not anti-snob laws. This is an issue where the board advocates for the residents and looks for the safety of the residents. For the last 2.5 years, for the last 2.5 years, we have talked about safety issues. And as a community, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm sure others will agree with me, we feel the board is not hearing our concerns. We feel that the board is just ignoring the concerns that are being raised by the members that live in this part of the town that are going to be impacted the most.
I think you're underestimating the impact that you guys have with regards to the work that we do here. It is a concern of ours. We also look at alternative uses for this site. You know, this was a site that's industrial land and could have been developed, and you know, there's a whole, if you go to the town hall and look to see what's allowed under industrial land use and see all the uses, you would not be, excuse me, you would not be interested in living so close to
May I
something like that.
respond to that?
Sure.
If it's available to be developed for industrial purposes, why hasn't it been developed for the last 30 to 40 years? Because the traffic is a major issue.
Who knows?
Mr. Flatley has made attempts at developing this property and was not able to. Why has it been that Mr. DePietri has been able to get this property for such a bargain price? I'm sure it's because there's issues and flaws with this property. He can be a very charming man, but I'm not sure he's not that charming to get 100 acres in Southborough for a bargain price that he did.
Well, first of all, regardless of the fact that you think it's a bargain, this is a difficult site for the fact that there are wetlands and there's
Absolutely, and that's
the
exactly
terrain
why it hasn't been
and the
developed
fact
for the
that
last
it's close
30,
to
40
490.
years.
Yeah, regardless of the fact, it has nothing to do with that. But I appreciate your,
Just
I
mentioned
appreciate
that
your
it did.
comments, and all your comments are taken very seriously by our board.
Okay, then let me make one last comment and a question to the board. For the last 2.5 to 3 years, we've been fighting, arguing, butting heads. We've all been standing up here. What does it take, or what is there any concern that the board has that could potentially reduce the impact or the size of this project on this town? Is there anything that you can hear or see that will change your mind, or is it essentially a done deal, and now we're just going through the motions and you're trying to appease us?
No, it's not a done deal, and I've mentioned earlier this evening that we're waiting on input from Conservation, who's got a very important, and also planning. You know, some of the waivers that we granted during this process, people criticized us, but we made it very clear that these waivers could be revoked at any time, and we will revoke them if we feel as though that it's not meeting the standards that we had set.
Well,
You
how
know,
about
the
you
whole
revoke them?
idea of getting this project approved or not approved is to vet it all out. We want everything to be out on the open. We had multiple traffic studies, we had peer review
for the
studies.
right of
We've had
developer.
plenty of people that have talked about traffic problems and given demonstrations like this gentleman tonight, but no engineer is putting a stamp on this type of stuff. You know, all we can go by as a board is by a licensed engineer that stamps the work. So if the residents want to hire a consultant and get another peer review that's stamped by an engineer and without any emotion attached to it, and I'll be more than happy to look into it. But, you know, when people throw these scare tactics up and with no science behind it, with no one's willing to put an engineer's stamp on it to say this is fact, then we have to take that with a grain of salt. We have to.
All right, so then let me respond to that. If you're referring to Mass DOT website data as scare tactics, then I'm sorry to hear that, and I don't know where else you're
No,
gonna
because
get legitimate
you don't
data
know
from.
what context it was written, that's all.
The context was accidents at intersection of Flag and Route 9. I don't know how much more clear that context can be. But to also go on, Mr. Cantizaro may throw up his arms because we've argued this before. That's great. I have contacted 10 traffic engineers, and they are refusing to go and argue against developers. Their bread and butter comes from developers. Why doesn't the town pay for it? Why has Mr. DePietri paid for all these consults?
We had a independent, we had a
We
separate.
had, but
Who paid for it?
well, okay,
Hold on. Number one, I hired the consultant with the town planner. We agreed to get a private consultant.
Yes.
I sat down with our town planner, Jennifer. She had 3 different consultants to do it.
Yep.
She recommended the one consultant that we hired. I came back to the board agreed to it. We hired him, we worked with him. The only thing Mr. DePietri did on that was when the bill came to us, gave us a check. He had no conversations with the individual consultant until he came to our meeting and discussed the public hearing.
So for traffic.
And it was
engi-
made very
for
clear
traffic-
by the town planner that there was no discussion between them before he came to the public
So
meeting.
for traffic engineers, where do the majority of their income comes from? From developers. So they are not gonna come out and specifically speak against developers and go on
That's
a
just not
back.
true. That's not true.
All right, then
Engineers work for
then
the
I
state, they
encourage
work
you.
for cities and towns,
I
and they
en-
work for
then
developers.
I would encourage you to find me a traffic engineer that is willing to look at this independently, and I will pay them.
Well, it's not my job we
You-
feel as
you are
though that,
just-
we feel as
I
though
have
that the peer
contacted
review was
10 engineers and
very
not
sufficient.
willing to do this. If you feel that there is an engineer that is willing to be hired by private citizens to evaluate this traffic data and give their unbiased opinion, I will be glad to pay for them.
Okay.
Karen has my address.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to make any comments?
I'm gonna make a motion to close this hearing.
Well,
Thank you very
have the
much,
right to
Mr.
do it.
Chairman and the CBA Board. I'm Jonas Linden, and
Excuse me, I just want to make a point that we're going to try to, we're going to let some more people talk, but I'm just saying that we're going to try to wrap this up in the next few minutes. So anyone that has any comments, if they can make them as brief as we can. We have This is because a lot of this discussion has been discussed on numerous occasions through multiple meetings. Some of you have not been to all these meetings, so you may be hearing this for the first time tonight. The board has heard this on dozens of occasions. So unless there's some new data, we'll be more than happy to hear if it's new data, but if it's just rehashing some of the old stuff, then it
We'll
really
close the
doesn't,
public hearing.
it doesn't really, suit the purpose of the meeting. Go ahead,
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman. I'm Jonas Linden on 39 Flag Road. I have 5 points I'd like to raise. So I appreciate that you recognize that the input from the other boards are important. And I want to make sure that it's taken into account there was massive public opposition for this particular Park Central project at this location at the July 28th Planning Board meeting. Second point, I'm also very concerned. I have 4 school-aged children that use this road to get to school as well as for recreation, as well as I do. And my concern is for the safety of those children as well as any other pedestrians by any increased traffic load from the Park Central development. My third point, I've seen the traffic study. It doesn't seem to take into account pedestrian and bicycle traffic, for example. So it does look partial to me. And I'd also like to understand what the other impact studies are. For example, impacts to school, town finances. Last, Mr. Chairman and CBA board, respectfully, the reason that we want to read the letters that we send in to you is that it seems that you're not receiving them. In addition, you don't seem to want to hear the public's concern. For example, you did not let Karen finish her thoughts. So the final point here is that you need to revoke the waivers, as you mentioned. Park Central cannot be approved in its current location. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Howard Rose, 2 Bantry again. 2 very quick points. One, Mr. Bartolini, I'd just like to clarify the work you said that MassDOT is going to do to Route 9 with making it straight with the access road. That is not planned on any of the current. They don't know how to pay for it. It will be at least 2020, if not 2025. It's not on the SIP list. It will be long past this project is even going at the moment.
Excuse me, you're wrong. Mr. Petrie, will you explain to them your contract agreement?
Mr. Rose, he's talking about the intersection of Route 9 and Flag Road, not the reconstruction of Route 9. We're paying to reconstruct Flag Road and Route 9 within the state highway layout.
In the approval of the project by this board.
Respectfully, is that
The construction will
just-
be done before he's giving his occupancy permit to the project.
Thank you. Respectfully, Mr. DePietri, that's just the stop sign, the T intersection. That's not the new access road, correct?
No, right, it's the realignment of Flag Road and Route 9. And
Right.
it'll be on this final set of plans that shows up at the town.
And I saw that on the DIR, thank you.
Right.
That's just a T intersection, and
Yes.
frankly, in most of the residents' opinion, that's more dangerous than what's there now. That's an opinion.
No, that's being recommended by DOT.
I understand. It's still our opinion that's more dangerous. What I was referring to is they had another project, which is in their report for a future where they're actually going to do an access road.
Correct.
And that is what I was talking about, is not on, that would make this safer, and that is not on the plans to the foreseeable future.
I think it's on a 5-year plan.
All right,
At least 5 year.
Yep.
The other thing, once again, Mr. Eagle, you keep saying there's no reports to look at. I encourage you to look at the report that was commissioned by this town by you at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, or maybe it was the one before, when the author of that stood up. One of the things he actually recommended to be strongly considered is closing Flag Road. So I think you need to consider that if the traffic study that you say doesn't exist, the last one that was done that has yet to be discussed and is still being discussed by the Board of Selectmen, one of the recommendations that was set to be strongly considered was closing Flag Road to alleviate the traffic that you're proposing putting on it now. So please consider that as you move forward. Thank you.
Can I take a bit?
yes.
On that comment that was just made, I guess, Mr. DePietri, so there's a portion that you're gonna be reconstructing onto Route 9? And if there's,
The
and
end of
that's, is
Flag.
that something that's being, is that something that's being mandated for you to do, or you're
Yes.
saying you want
Yeah,
it
it's mandated by Mass Highway.
by Mass Highway?
Right.
Okay.
Where are we? Right here, the intersection of
Right there.
Route 9 and Flag Road within the state right-of-way. And this actually shows the new design.
But that was my question.
Yeah, mandated by Mass Highway. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Ellen Joyce. I live at 54 Deerfoot Road. I had a couple of points I want to make when it was said about the sidewalks on Deerfoot and Flag. When Trottier was being built, I attended almost every single meeting for that because I can look out my kitchen window and see Trottier, so I wanted to make sure that everything okay with that. We were never approached about sidewalks on Deerfoot Road. Second, I was driving down Flag Road a year and a half ago in the big snow. There was a school bus in front of me and a tractor trailer coming up Flag, and the tractor trailer had to back up onto Lover's Lane in order for the school bus to get by because of the snow and the smallness of the road. And third, I'm a big supporter of affordable housing. My family works for and has supported Habitat for Humanity for several years. Why not just build the 40 affordable housing and leave the rest as open space for the town because of the wetland and the conservation concerns? That way we are fitting into the 401, and everybody's happy because there's not as much traffic. Thank you.
Yes,
John
Mr.
Green, 10 Tower Road, just a really quick
Wait,
point.
excuse me, Mr. Bartolini?
The one issue that the woman said, as far as the affordable housing, the town has voted against it, and it has to go to town meeting to make a new zoning law to allow that type of housing in our town. You're not allowed to build condos in the town of Southborough at all. The only thing you're allowed to build are 55 and over projects, which right now are limited because of the numbers, and the other issue is a 40B project. That's all allowed to be built in.
Wait, excuse me,
Hold on,
you really have
hold
to
on.
grab the mic. Sorry.
It doesn't have to be condos. It could be 40 houses.
What do you mean, as a subdivision?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
40
that would be
affordable
different,
houses,
yes.
not condos or apartments.
Yeah, but it'd be a subdivision. That's right.
It's not millions of dollars in it. John Green, 10 Tower Road, quick point. I think a big point of contention has been these waivers, and since you offered tonight, I think that that's something we should take you up on. I think you should revoke the waivers, let it go through planning board, let it go through conservation, let the Board of Selectmen make their comments on the roadway, and I don't think that the waivers ever should have been granted to begin with. I think that's a number of the issues that everybody in this room has, is that you went above everybody else for the benefit of the developer, and we would love for you to revoke those waivers tonight. Thank you.
The reason the waivers were done, it was to do with the design plans of these plans. Because of the condition of the waivers, the plans would have been designed 80% different maybe than they presently were. So before they went forward with the plans, they brought the request of the waivers, which has been done on different 40B projects before this.
You granted waivers on 17 of the 21 areas that the planning board can take action on. And I think that was unprecedented.
And they
I
cannot
don't
go
think that
against
there's-
our agreement on the waivers.
Well, that's why I'm saying I think you should revoke the waivers. We just said, hey, we're all in it together. We want to do the right thing. And the right thing is to revoke the waivers.
Well, what I said was that both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board have a duty to vet this out with the developer and give us some of their comments.
And what Mr.
And we- and
Bartolini
we-
is...
and- Well, that process hasn't been completed yet.
Well, what
So-
Mr. Bartolini's
so-
saying is that if he doesn't like what the planning board has to say, he doesn't have to agree to it. So I think the process should be that the planning board makes their comments and that we all take them into consideration and let the planning board actually do their job. Right now, you are not allowing the planning board to do their job.
Well,
and I think that is one of the biggest problems with this project that all of us have, is that you've taken any power away from any other board and you've put it into 1 or 2, 3 people's hands,
No,
right?
but keep in mind, here's the problem is that this is a combined property, right? So you've got a 40A and a 40B on the same property.
Should have never happened.
This is a fact.
Yeah.
And if it was all 40B, we would not be having this discussion about involving the planning board. The planning board's job we would be doing, basically. Because it's a combined site, and a lot of those roads are combined. That main Bolin Road is a combined road for both projects. We felt as though to help streamline the process and make it more cohesive, we felt as though that would make the most sense. It is an unusual process. It's really unfair for you to stand up and say, well, this is unprecedented, this has never happened before. Well, no one's ever approached the town with a project like this that combines these two aspects in the same project, in effect. So we're very sensitive of what you're saying. I don't want you to think we're dismissing it. I truly hope that you understand I'm trying to be as sincere as I can. It's very important that we make sure that we get as much as we can out of the developer for the town before we even come to a decision and decide we're going to vote on it.
Right, well, I think the main concern is that this board has not addressed a lot of the issues that have been brought about from safety. You say we've been talking about it for 2 years. We have been talking about it for 2 years. Nobody from the board has brought anything up. I sat here during the whole Ken's Foods thing. Oh, we're so worried about a semi-truck parking on the side of Route 9. We're not worried about a semi-truck on Flag Road. I don't understand. I don't understand how that question has not been brought up. I don't get it. I don't get how you just sit there and you don't bring up any of these questions. It's up to us. And then you guys just sit there and look at us like we got 3 heads. I don't understand. The other thing is we haven't addressed noise. We haven't addressed landscape. We haven't addressed anything on this project.
Okay, that's
Mr.
not
DePietri,
true.
Mr. DePietri has addressed it with 5 neighbors.
That's
Five.
not true. We've had multiple meetings on landscaping.
5
the types
neighbors.
Of trees that. No. I'm not talking about the neighbors meet. I'm talking about meetings here, public meetings. We've had multiple meetings at the ZBA. You can get the tapes and watch them if you want.
I've watched all the tapes.
Okay, we've had multiples. We've talked about the type of trees, the distance between the bushes, what type of bushes. The fellows from
about
Waterman
clear
Design
cut?
were very specific as to where they were going to be planted.
What about clear cutting all the way to the neighbor's line? A project this size, there is no reason that he needs to go all the way up
I
to the line.
don't believe that is happening. I don't believe that there's clear cutting all the way
He is
to the
clear cutting
property.
all the way to
No,
the
we're
line.
not. Listen,
There's an issue
Jonathan,
with this.
enough talking about stuff that you don't know what you're talking about, okay?
Okay. Are you not clear cutting to the line?
Hang on, all right? It's my turn to talk. You've been
Okay,
talking
let's
all
go.
night, all right? The landscape architect has been no less than 3 times here and twice at the planning board. So don't say we haven't talked about landscaping. We have talked about it. Look at the plans. They're at the town hall. They're public record. Look at what I'm clearing. I'm not clear cutting the site. We're only clearing what we have to clear. And hang on, I'm not done yet. As far as you just seen this plan, you personally came to my office on many occasions and telephoned me and asked me to please do this project so we didn't have the 40B and the neighbors. Don't shake your head no, because you did. At least 6 occasions we spoke and you came to my office and pleaded with me to come up with a different plan. I showed you the plan before
Excuse me.
I even submitted it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I didn't agree to this plan.
Yes, you did.
I said that we should work on something that works,
The plan-
not
the
clear
plan
cutting
that
and
the
putting in
zoning board
325
granted the use
units.
variance
So don't
on,
spin it. Don't
the
spin it.
plan-
You spin
I'm
everything,
not
Bill.
spinning nothing,
Excuse me,
Jonathan.
Mr. Good, let him talk and then he can, I know.
I'm not, the plan,
let him talk
the
and then I'll-
plan that the use variance was granted on, you saw it many times before the town voted on it. It's the exact same plan. Yes, it is.
There was no use variance that I agreed to. Absolutely not. And
Wait a minute.
is anybody that signed the use
You have
variance
to
even in this
understand,
room?
the
Is
use
anybody?
variance has a legal agreement with all the abutters.
No, it does not.
Ace,
That is a lie. That's a straight lie. That's a
Ace
lie.
signed it.
5
8 of them.
neighbors.
Whatever.
5
They agreed
whatever.
It's a legal law.
5.
Excuse me, some order. Excuse me.
Mr.
Excuse
Chairman,
me.
I'm making a motion that we just continue this public hearing, that we've had enough discussion tonight.
Mr. Barlini, that's an absolute lie. There's 5
All right,
neighbors.
Mr. Green.
Till the 17th at 7:30.
All right, what? Can I just, there's one,
Yeah, 'cause we don't
there's
like what
one
we're
young
hearing.
lady back there would like to make one more comment. I'd like to have this.
We don't,
Okay.
because you don't like what I'm
Mr. Green,
saying. Mr.
I-
Bartolini talking about 5 neighbors and calling it all of the neighbors and all of the abutters is absolutely false.
Okay.
And I want everybody in here to know it.
Thank you. All right.
My
Okay,
heart's racing.
Excuse me, please.
Okay, hello, everyone. I'm Janet Sussman. I live at One Flag Road with my husband, Norman. We've resided there for approximately 22 years. My intent is not to get everyone on the defense. My intent is not to have people enraged. I think the beauty of town politics is that we can all talk, hopefully, in a very respectful way with one another or to one another. So with that, I'd like to first ask a few questions about this, because I think that's what we were asked to do tonight, aside from all the traffic issues, which I must say I echo the sentiments of all my neighbors in this room. So first question I have is, with regard to the recreation facility, are you planning on having this lit at night? Are there any lights proposed on this?
Not at this time.
I'd like to make a recommendation. I'm being a little sensitive to the people in Bantry. I don't know if they'd be able to see it or not, that no lights be on there for the neighbors.
Well, that could be part of the conditions.
Okay. Second, when the gentleman from Waterman was talking about the plan, something caught my ear as I used Flag Road to exit onto Route 9 many times during the day. There was discussion about an angle or a steepness of the grade coming out of the complex to Flag Road. Is that correct?
No, he's talking about a culvert coming up John Boland Road. We have to go over a small wetland area. Nothing to do with Flag Road.
Nothing to do with Flag Road. Okay. A couple of other things. We seem to be talking a lot about the apartments, and I'm just curious if all of these studies and all of the discussion pertains only to the housing, because the additional plans for the assisted living and I believe a hotel is a whole nother ball of wax. That's coming down the road in the future. Is that correct?
Right, and we can't discuss that. That's not our jurisdiction to discuss any potential future. There's nothing that we would be involved with.
Okay, so although we can't
Zoning
discuss
issues
it,
with
As far
that.
as we know, there'd be nothing we'd be
Right.
involved with.
We're just focused on this 40B project. right now.
okay, but on this 40B project and on this parcel of land are what I call futures. And that is going to impact, I believe, all of the people in what I call our neighborhood of Flag, Deerfoot, Blackthorn, Bantry, et cetera, et cetera. So although we may be thinking just of apartments, there is potentially something else coming down the road which can impact us. So I'd just like to put that in
Right.
everyone's
And they
ear.
would have to he would have to go through the process with the boards and get approval for any type of building that, he'd have to go to the planning board and for site plan approval, so
And if
that's.
it required a further traffic
Okay,
report, it would
thank you
require a
thank you
further-
for clarifying that for me. I do have another concern. Mr. DePietri, how are you planning on having all of your construction trucks and construction vehicles enter and exit from this complex? Because I'm a gardener. A lot of you see me out there at One Flag Road. Today, over 10 large construction vehicles pass through my house in the neighborhood because there's a gentleman building a house or someone building a house on the corner of Strawberry Hill and Flag Road. Now, everyone deserves the right to build, everyone deserves the right to get the vehicles in and out, but it's noisy. It can be dangerous. The kids aren't in school right now, but I see these trucks coming in and out of my neighborhood, and it scares me. How are you planning on getting your vehicles in and out?
They would come in and out of Park Central Drive until John Boland Road was substantially complete.
Will there be no construction vehicles on Flag Road?
They could put it in the order, we can put it in contracts.
This
I
was
mean,
in a
Put it in order of
decision.
conditions
I
that
would
there's
like to
no-
make a recommendation.
We've already had it done that way. It's already in this
Thank you,
condition to
Mr.
do
Bartolini,
that.
for bringing that to my attention.
That was
Thank
done
you.
about 6 months ago.
But we
Okay,
would
great.
certainly, if that's a concern, we
Well, I
would
think it's a big
certainly-
concern. I mean,
I mean, I'm not-
I see what one house is doing in the neighborhood in terms of truck
Right.
and construction traffic. So it's obviously a concern that you've got all these units, and I'd like to make sure that the trucks are not trafficking through our neighborhood.
There was an
That's a good
issue,
point, and that's something we'd incorporate into an order of conditions.
Thank you very much.
there was an issue brought up by a butter on Flag Road about people that clean property, what do you call it?
Landscapers.
Landscapers parking on Flag Road. And at the same time, when that came up that night, we brought the issue up that, and Mr. Petrie agreed that we'd keep the construction access on Park Central Drive
Right.
in and out, which it can go that way until the project is opened up.
Okay.
So-
And I'd also just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And we are a voice, and I think we all have a right to be heard. So although it's been a little exhausting and people are a little frustrated, I believe that's what we all should be here doing,
Thank
okay?
you,
Thank you for
thank you,
comments.
thank you, Janet. Excuse me,
Well,
there was,
oh.
there was a motion.
Yeah, I know there's one, I know you've been waiting patiently to
Okay,
wanted to make
all
a
right.
comment.
As long as it's
Thank
something
you.
new.
Am I on?
You are on.
Marnie Houlihan, 26 Clifford Road. So I first wanted to state for the record, there was a comment that all abutters signed the use variance. I just want to make, I was one of the people who circulated a petition regarding denying a 40B, which was submitted to this board and several others. There were 7 abutters on that signature, so I don't think we should make comments like all abutters, because that's actually, in fact, not true.
Okay, good point.
Based on the 2010 census, Southborough has a population of 9,767. Based on Mass Housing published SHI, the subsidized housing index list in 2010, Southborough had 286 subsidized housing units, which brought us to the 8.3% marker. The state has upheld in several court decisions that every appeal that has been proceeds, boards do not have to approve 40Bs that exceed the 10% mandate. So based on that, we would need 35 subsidized housing index units to achieve the 10% marker in this town. I think it's something to consider. We do not need to achieve. We've made great progress and we're close to the 10%. And all the appeals that have been made, they actually say you do not need to exceed the 10% as long as you're at 10%. So I wanted to make that statement as well.
Your numbers are incorrect, ma'am. The thing is that with the present regulations where we are on WIT numbers, that right now we can approve 268 units now. And in 2019, then the additional project of another 188 units will be allowed to be approved by the town, which are total numbers on the 25% affordable, you know.
Of
But
which
those are the
25%
numbers that are presently in front of us now.
Right, of which 25%. I'm talking the actual individual unit. So at this point, we would need to meet 35 units to achieve the 10% mandate.
No, you need 35 affordable,
Correct.
not total units.
I think you said.
It's basically the same thing. It's just inverse math, but
Yep.
that's fine. My point here is safety is a legitimate ground. I think you've heard from many of the neighbors here. I think we're all in support. I think a tremendous amount of people that have come here is expressing the concern. We would hope that the Zoning Board of Appeals hears this concern. Safety as a legitimate ground to deny a comprehensive permit was upheld in OIB Corporation versus Housing Appeals Committee in Suffolk Superior Court, case number 2006-17004. And similar to this instance, the board found that the applicant was inconsistent with local needs, which is part of your job to make sure it's local needs, as among other things, the site did not have sufficient emergency access for the proposed units, where there was only means of access to the proposed development. On the merits, the Supreme Court upheld the decision of the board, finding that the concern for safety and emergency access outweighed the regional need for affordable housing. Frankly, we only need 35 units, so why invite over 300? An assisted living, a hotel, and a confined plot of land that has no safe egress compromises the safety of our existing homeowners and pedestrians of Flag and Deerfoot roads, which are school safety zones, imposes significant challenges to a rural town designated scenic road, which, as I understand, technically cannot be altered without express permission by the planning board and public hearings. The Park Central development is inconsistent with the needs of the town, and safety concerns far outweigh the regional needs for affordable housing, and I implore this zoning board to deny the comprehensive permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, want to make a motion?
Motion that we continue the public hearing to August 17th at 7:30.
Any discussion?
Do we go with that day? No discussion?
No,
Oh, all right, do we have
You wanna-
discussion?
Is that fine?
No, this is, hang on a minute.
Does 7?
That'll be a week from tomorrow
A week
Week
from
from
It's a
Wednesday.
week from Wednesday
at 7:30.
at 7:30.
Yep.
Okay?
I'll second that motion.
Um,
7:30.
Well, how about 7:30 if we, I'm just.
Either way, what
in
would
case
you
we
like?
have any other business to
we
discuss
have no more
prior.
business.
We have nothing else. we're
Yeah,
gonna have.
7:30.
Oh,
7:30.
7th, all right. We have nothing else.
oh,
I can have
Just
dinner
us.
first.
you gonna do it first? Okay. So you want you want 7?
Right, I can get dinner first. Okay. Any?
I'm on the opposite
Paul
end.
made it.
No, Lee made the motion
Oh,
and I
Lee-
seconded it.
Right. Okay. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
I make a motion that we close the public meeting.
Any discussion? Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? No?
I have no discussion.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, actually, Bill,
I gotta tell him. Yeah, I know.
Bill, So if, like, in the future, some plans that come in and stuff, instead of this,
What do you want?
is it
Email?
possible to get it on, like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
the,
11 by 17.
11 by 17 paper, is
Yes.
that?
You'll have it.
They want 11 by 17.